System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' inner city left.
This is the Inner City Left broadcast. Today is Thursday, October 9th. I am Amin TMK alongside Emoja, Lil Tanky, Sumler. Emoja, hello, happy Thursday. How are you doing today? What is the word on the street?
Man,
what are the people talking
good
about?
news, bro. I have the best news.
What is it?
Peace. It broke out everywhere, bro. Peace, man.
Wars are over, baby.
War is a thing of the past. We won, man.
Man, we can finally get down to the arts and crafts and activities.
Yeah.
And working on our book projects and our albums exclusively and shooting music videos and doing merch. We don't have to worry about talking about intense geopolitics every day.
We won. We could become what I always wanted. We could become a brunch blog.
That was supposed to be the move, right? Go around, try all of DC's best brunches in Maryland and Virginia.
It's quite smashing, man.
Go to Baltimore and deal with their lovely and wonderful diners.
It was Tox's first rate.
And of course, you already know DC got some crazy food. I'm such a seafood guy too, which is unfortunate because Tanky does not do the shellfish. But that's okay. I experienced that, and you experience beer and liquor and liquors, so that's how we move through the world together.
Winning.
I gotta say, I'm sorry, guys. We were just joking about the peace. It's more war than ever, but we might have a ceasefire coming up. Let's see what Donnie has to say. He's always got something to talk about, so let's just hear it, and I'll get your reaction.
Thank everybody for being here. As you know, last night we reached a momentous breakthrough in the Middle East, something that people said was never going to be done. We ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace. Peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all of the remaining hostages, and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday. Getting them is a complicated process. I'd rather not tell you what they have to do to get them. There are places you don't want to be, but we are getting the hostages back on Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday, and that'll be a day of joy. I'm going to try and make a trip over. We're going to try and get over there, and we're working on the timing, the exact timing. We're going to go to Egypt, where we'll have a signing, an additional signing. We've already had a signing representing me, but we're going to have an official signing.
You want to try to break this down? What are your thoughts here?
Man, fascinating stuff. I will mention, not that it has any bearing on any of this, okay? It's just true. The Nobel Peace Committee will be handing out the Nobel Peace Prize Friday. So the timing is, once again, it's an interesting timing, you know what I'm saying? It's just in time. So, I remember reading something from the Nobel committee that said that, you name them the Department of War. So a man such as that cannot get the Nobel. Well, but we'll see. We'll see, because stranger things have happened. But it's a peace that solves nothing, right? That's the thing that we have to acknowledge about what's happened. It's a peace that solves nothing. It doesn't account for any real mechanism for the United Nations to come in and investigate what has happened. We have to remember there are people, whatever you think about it, right? There are people on the Hamas side that are supposed to be investigated for war crimes that have been indicted. Most of those people, I think, have been killed. Some of them have not. And there are people in Israel that have been indicted by the ICC and the ICJ for war crimes. And the first thing that happens at a crime scene is the investigators need to get access to the ground to understand what's happened, right? That's not going to happen at all. So that's not peace, right? There's no way to really acknowledge what's happened. And everyone's going to say, oh, it was a war. But a war is something that happens between two nation states. And they have consistently not allowed Palestine to become a nation, right? So you're talking about literally the law that exists under an occupied people, which the United Nations has rules for, right? So once again, it's a peace that in many ways, once again, lowers the international standing and esteem of bodies like the United Nations. It says, go away, there's nothing here to see. It defangs the population of Palestine. Essentially, it makes it so that it's no longer possible for them to arm themselves, right? But no such accommodations for the Israelis. And I think about this as a person that is Jewish, right? The thing about the Levant that we should acknowledge, and this is probably the leftiest thing I'll ever say, is this is a land that is holy to at least three cultures, religious cultures, to say nothing of nations, which is a different feeling. This is a land, the Levant is sacred to Christians all around the world. Levant is sacred to Jews all around the world. Levant is sacred to Islamic Muslims, and that's all around the world. Even if you're from Indonesia, there are holy sites in Israel that exist, the Levant, right, which is a more neutral phrasing. The real best move, the way to ensure peace forever, is to make sure that the entire land is a land where no one is armed, right? Not unilateral disarmament where only one people don't have weapons. No one should have weapons there. That should be an international heritage site. And this is, again, something the United Nations would be right up their alley for. The assurance and eternal guarantees of protection for the Levant, right? Because this is a land that's holy to three different religious cultures, right, that have consistently warred over the past 1,500 years, right? The Christians warred with the Muslims. The Jews are now the Zionists in Israel of a Jewish lineage are warring with the Palestinians, and that starts to break off into more of a land thing than a religious thing. But there's still always those undertones, right? So that's the way you solve it, right? That's the real peace in the Middle East. No one has weapons. No country within, 1,000 miles of the Levant, right? Not Syria, not Israel, not Jordan, not Egypt, right? None of those nations should be able to have weapons, right? And that's how you have peace. Now you have what is that thing that happens with India and China, right? Every now and again on the mountain pass where they can't have weapons, scuffle breaks off. There's a fight. Maybe someone gets thrown off, one of the cliffs, right? But it's not 500,000 people starved, subjected to starvation. It's not numerous attacks on humanity, on the human experience itself. Is this a real peace? No. This is a surrender. And it sets the board for a lot of other types of violence. It sets the board for other actions that can happen, right? You need that tied up so that the other tensions that exist throughout the world can begin to play out.
I think a lot of people are sort of skeptical of what's going to happen here. And I think that that's obviously the right mentality to have, because this is what Israel does. They break ceasefires. They've still been attacking Gaza with the drones already. And they attacked people on a beach earlier this morning. So it's still happening. I guess, when the final ink dries, we'll see what happens. But do you find like I think it's a big concern for the people of Palestine that they don't have the hostages now? It kind of seems like that was one of the only things that was really stopping, the full destruction of Gaza, if it's not already fully and completely gone. What is, obviously there's a lot of dominoes that's going to come from this, but one, do you see, obviously you said it's not a peace plan. Do you see this as, you said surrender, is it capitulation? Is it sort of a loss? And also, does this sort of pivot us into war, breaking out in Iran or China or Taiwan, or, what are your thoughts on those things?
Well, what it does is it does free the Israeli military for major actions in other theaters, right? There'll still be, I feel like, guerrilla asymmetric reaction That's going to continue to happen, right? Occupy people are going to resist. I don't see this as magically there's not going to be any more conflict in Gaza. I don't see it like, and in many places, Bibi is already saying, I'm not going to remove the full military. What it does, it's more like a practice de-escalation. As to the hostages being gone, this is why it's tough to talk about these things in the terms of wins and losses, because you're talking about, perspective, and it all depends on whose perspective you're looking at it and what the objectives that you're going for are as it relates to the Israeli government, as it relates to the resistance, right? For the Israelis, the families, they get their people back. They're definitely going to see that as a win. But for people like Netanyahu and Smotrich that wanted to see a total destruction of Gaza, that's definitely not what they weren't able to accomplish what they sold, right? To the most extreme right-wing factions of Israel, which sounds hyperbolic, right? But I mean, the Smotriches of the world, the Ben Gavirs of the world, these people are extremely to the right of any other person on this planet. And they are part of Bibi Netanyahu's coalition, right? So like to those kind of people that wanted to see all of the Palestinians forced off the land, they're going to see it as a loss. There's no other way to describe it. From the Palestinian perspective, if your goal is to protect the population, this is a win, right? People aren't going to be overtly bombed in tents anymore. It's going to return to the regular level of almost like just militarized policing actions, kind of more what you see in the West Bank, right? As opposed to straight up invasion like United States and Iraq, right? Like, so those are wins from those perspectives. It would be
kind of a
hard.
return to the status quo then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what you're getting. That's what you're getting. So, again, it's October 6th rules. It's all the bad things that existed in October 6th are back. It's supposed to be that level. But one thing I did see in the plan was, a gradual squeezing, right? Those boundaries keep changing through phase A, through phase B, through phase C. And it'll be interesting to see if they use this as an opportunity to once again encroach upon, excuse me, what the recognized boundaries of Palestine are. That was one of the things that a lot of people in the negotiations were discussing. They were like, these are lines like someone just drew a Sharpie on a map. This isn't really like, we're going to go around this town, and so like people don't really know what those lines mean. There's a lot of tenuous things in this, which is always great, right? From the English perspective, it's like you can always say that's not what we said, It's a lot of room for inference, and that's normally not good for the people with a weaker army.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering also, so again, like, what does this now leave? Like you said, it's going to leave Israel's, the IDF and their military open and do other things. Is this a pivot to Iran? Is this a pivot larger? I mean, I always see things like, okay, a ceasefire here, but that just means weapons are going to be diverted here, or I think it's always kind of like everything is pointed on Gaza, and that's how everything moves. It's kind of like in a free agent, like the number one free agent's going to dictate what happens with everyone else. So I guess what I'm saying is we saw, you talked earlier, we have Russia and North Korea being very buddy. Kim Jong-un already came out earlier this week and said, why are American ships near us? Basically saying back off. There are, again, these flashpoints that are that continue to get brighter. How about that? And now that Gaza, I don't know what's going to happen with the second phase of the ceasefire. We may not ever even see a second phase of the ceasefire. And it's hard for me to believe that Israel is going to back down. And anyway, like you said, because, Netanyahu is his administration is based on being, like you said, as far right wing as you possibly can get, genocidal even. So
he has warrants.
To deal with that.
He has warrants.
Yes.
Whether or not people exercise those warrants, he has warrants.
Dude, we did a broadcast years ago, man, like 6 years ago, before we were on YouTube, before we were even doing the format like this. Like, we literally talked about it's over for Bibi Netanyahu. It's too much corruption. It's too much, misappropriated funds. There's too many lies. And he's got to deal with that if there is no blatant Holocaust existing within Gaza, which is hard for me to believe that is going to change. But anyway, back to Russia, back to North Korea. This is, again, Taiwan, all of these places, flashpoints ready to explode. Iran, we already seeing military coups in places like Nepal. You're seeing uprisings in Indonesia. Bolivia kind of fell into the right wing world. All of these things happening. Is this going to ultimately still be an escalation when it comes to, in general, war on planet Earth?
Yeah, I mean, you raise a good point about Netanyahu once again, right? When we talk about the warrants and how that becomes part of why he has to behave in the ways that he does, right? Like the war in Gaza, right, allowed him to not face the accountability in Israel, those particular warrants, right, which are internal, lest someone be like, oh, it's just the world picking on Bibi Netanyahu. No, he has literal warrants for his arrest. He is in the process of being tried for corruption in Israel as we speak. These are just matters of fact. And so long as the war is going, it's difficult, right, politically, for anyone in Israel to really kind of manage an assault against Bibi. Like, well, I mean, it's a time of war. Now is not the time to look into, even Yoav Gallant was the first one when Bibi fired him to be like, hey, we need to take a closer look at what happened October 7th. You haven't heard much from dude since then. You know what I'm saying? So but that's to say nothing of his international warrants, like the ICC and the ICJ. A war with Iran is a wonderful, it's the great war for Israel. That is the war that wakes them up with excitement, for right or wrong. This is a war that the people in Israel want. The government has sold them on wanting this. And that's their crusade, And so there's always room for Netanyahu to make that move. You brought up North Korea. It's the 80th. Everybody's doing their 80th, celebration since World War II, So they call it the Festival of Friendship, and Dmitry Medvedev is the representative of the Russian Federation in Pyongyang right now, These are real things.
Sending your spiciest guy. It's like
the guy that's
sending Draymond Green. Yeah, we're gonna send Hamzat Shemaev to be to see if we can, get a vibe going. I think it's gonna turn up and it's gonna escalate because it's two people that know what the West is after and know what they're capable of and what they're gonna do. So you get two of those people talking, there's gonna be some real things happening. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, these are living Doc Holliday type motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying? Like, you don't want to provoke Medvedev. And I believe in my heart of hearts, he will be Putin's replacement. Less and less am I hearing about this Putin forever. Only crazed liberals think, oh, Putin's going to rule forever. No, there's people you got to answer to in Russia. Even Putin has people to answer to, the same way Donald Trump has people to answer to. This is not a world that exists like that, where there's no one on earth that has people they have to answer to.
To make things evil, they got to flatten it.
Right.
They're always flattening some sort of person to make. Let's not forget when we were in PR, not NPR, but in Puerto Rico, the NPR voice is like this. Yeah. And we had to make sure that and Venezuela is a dictatorship. Anyway, but, we were in I'm forgetting my point here, but we were in PR. And we were basically, kind of looking at all the things that were happening with the electricity outages and all the things like this. And, obviously Puerto Rico is now going to be utilized as this military base for Venezuela. So we're seeing, like, again, is this just a point? And this is what I'm saying. Is it just a point where America's got to go to war because the economy is just so bad? It's just so awful. And like the tariffs didn't really work. Not that anyone thought that they were going to work. And they're just kind of funneling all the money to the top. It just feels like it's just got to be a war, right?
Yeah, I mean, and again, right, the language that's coming out of the president's mouth right now is very concerning. When he says things like, Venezuela is part of the United States, which he said, you know what I'm saying? Like, it seems like a slip up, right? Everyone wants to be like, oh, he's doing the Biden thing. It's the cognitive degeneration because he's old. No, I think it's a statement of intent. When you look at the Monroe Doctrine in its truest form, in many ways, the United States reserves the right to invade any nation in this hemisphere, right? That's why they're always talking about their backyard. This is why the president is saying things like the Gulf of America. He sees it all as America. This is why he talks to Canada in this way, because he sees it all as America. Greenland's, he sees it all as America, everything on this hemisphere, and so in that context, this is why he feels comfortable trying to exercise ridiculous rules like drug confiscation for God's sakes in Venezuela. And this is the irony of, like, let's just talk about right now in Argentina, the Milei, who's been bailed out by a $20 billion loan from Scott Bessent, the American Secretary of the Treasury. He's caught up in a narco-terrorism scandal right now, where one of the people that was in his government was caught up. Right? There's no talk of invading Argentina. Right? Their government is failing, their economy is failing, and they're selling drugs. These are all of the things that lead to migration, illegal migration and legal migration. Either way, it causes people to leave. None of that language is there because it's a right-wing nation. You know what I'm saying? That's very sycophantic to the West, subservient to the West. Whereas you see the bravísimo chavismo, right? This rebellious, rugged Latin, that whole energy in places like Venezuela that is becoming contagious. More and more, you're even seeing this in places like Colombia, where the Colombian president Pedro recently admitted that it was the Americans that actually the Navy blew up a Colombian boat, not a Venezuelan boat. Right. So that's a point where it can happen. You just don't know what'll be the flashpoint on that. As you mentioned earlier, there's the flashpoint with the South Koreans and the North Koreans, where they're doing military. The South is doing military procedures where they simulate an attack on the North. And at the last second, all of the bombers and the fighters peel off and the soldiers divert. But for all intents and purposes, it's a planned invasion. That's the practice. Like, there's no reason for North Korea not to feel threatened by those type of behaviors, right? Like, if the Mexican army practiced an invasion of the southern border, Americans would lose their shit, right? And all, again, that we ask for often is, as a citizen, think how you would react if these things were happening in your country. And then you don't have to think that hard about why these countries move that way. Again, flattening North Korea to Kim Jong-un is a mistake. It's a whole country, everyone doesn't think what he thinks. It's just silly to believe those kind of things. No more than everyone in Saudi Arabia believes what Mohammed bin Salman believes, I mean, is he any less of an authoritarian? He's the crown prince, Yeah.
Yeah, so we're looking at multiple flashpoints, like, is in places like Venezuela, like you mentioned, the populace is becoming even more supportive and more nationalistic just because of, having the idea of someone come to your country to invade you is far different, I feel like, than, like you said, skirmishes or things like that. Like, you're invading a populace. Like, this is not even a military installation. Y'all are attacking fishing boats, and then one of the boats they attacked, it wasn't even Venezuelan, it was Colombian. So let's look like all these, like you said, the flashpoints, not to mention, guys, Malay was out there. He was doing a rock concert. I should have put it in there. It was hilarious, man.
That was some cringy shit.
Dude, I think to myself, yo, we live in the craziest reality because of like Trump just says something insane every day. But yo, Malay is really out there giving a book tour and doing a rock concert to promote it. It's like, that is insane, man. And, that's what they want. They would love that. Oh my God, bro. It's like that. They would love to see a situation where the South America was just full of Malays, these libertarian types, with the chainsaw. He's going to cut all the programming. There was even talk, I don't know if you remember this, of the official currency in Argentina being the American dollar. So you have all of those situations. And then we haven't talked even about the Sahel, and, they're pushing back. And let's also Europe. Europe is all over the place. They're ready to go to war with Russia. Spain is ready to cut off Israel. We're going to see what's going to happen. But and China, man. And China's still there, dude. China's still the number one item on the menu, I think, for the United States. And we haven't even talked about Volodymyr Z and, the continuing destruction and, the loss of land, the loss of important military apparatus from the Russians, and they're still not using their full power, man. So
not at all. Meanwhile, Europe is preparing these false flags by having these drones. And they're like, oh, look, it's the Russian shadow fleet. They're flying their remote control drones over the cities, and they're not doing, like, all of these drones guys are being, like, the stories go out like, oh, it's the Russians. And then quietly, 2 days later, the little retraction, is very quietly issued. Oh, it was a private drone operator. Miscommunication, has been arrested. They never, ever run with the big tagline, it actually wasn't the Russians, because the whole point is to keep this fear-mongering up to the point where, and that's their job, right, with the division of labor. That's the whole thing that the Secretary of War told them. Y'all got to pull your weight. Get ready. You want to fight Russia? All right, cool. Fight Russia. We'll sell you weapons. I mean, this is literally what Trump is saying. And this is what his Secretary of War is saying. He's saying, we got other wars we got to do. And Russia ain't officially it, Maybe we'll help, maybe we won't, but we got our other things. And those other things are all of the flashpoints we're talking about. When you run an empire, you got to be flexible. And you got to be able to put that army, those military forces, wherever as fast as possible. And you cannot do that if half or more of your army is tied, your military is tied up fighting Russia. Because it will be. At the very least, half of your military will be tied up. This is not Iraq, okay? This is not Afghanistan. No matter what you think about what success or failure look like in those places, war with Russia is a war that everyone feels. It's not like Americans have not felt anything like that since the Civil War. War with Russia is war. And this is, again, not even presuming a nuclear war. Their submarine fleet is at the very least, the second best in the world. Some argue it might be the best in the world, just smaller than the Americans.
America can be hit now.
America
by Russia, by China, they can be hit. North Korea, they can be hit.
And this is what Putin means when he says, if you send tomahawks to Ukraine, this will fundamentally change the position between America and Russia. And these are the things where even the president, with all of this supposed cognitive decline, has seemingly understood what that means. You know what I'm saying? But we'll see.
Donald Trump
we'll see.
/ Donald Biden / you know how it goes, man. And you're so right, dude. There's just so many flashpoints, and it just feels like they want it to pop off. They're just going to push and push and push and push to say, hey, look, it was the other guy that did it. But the whole world is already hip. It's you. It's the United States. And, dude, we still got 3 and a quarter year of this to deal with, man. Let's give a shout out to our podcast listeners. We're available everywhere you find podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, so on and so forth. You can always hit us on innercityleft.com. Pick up Fables, Foibles, and Other American Sins. Moshe Sumler's book of poetry. It's quite nice. Very wonderful writer, MFA, just we got all kind of stuff under the belt, man.
Thug shit. Fuck what you talking about.
Both can be true at the same time, not mutually exclusive, as they say. You can always hit us up on patreon.com/innercityleft. Budding wonderful community there. Thank you to all our patrons. New music coming out next week. Me and TMK, Lil Tanky.
Yo, I just want to say for all of the Gen Zers out there, like, oh, it's so positive, it's so good. This is an organic. They talking about bringing back the monarchy in Nepal. Like, the monarchy. They doing this for democracy, but we bringing the king back, right? Now, don't be surprised in 5 to 10 years when the king is like, it's right if we put a little American base up,
We need a base here, guys. It's going to help with the economy. Man. We need allies. And
I just want all the people, okay, that went out there talking about, oh, it's an organic revolution. I just want you people to just put one little tweet out, just one little whatever. What are you, your blue ski, your truth? Like, damn, I was a dumbass. Just once.
And we've all been there.
Just say it.
Dude, we've all been there. Why did I think this American propagandist? Why did I believe in this American propaganda? Why did I believe in this news organization?
Because we're the fucking best. It's so good. It's
so good. That's why it's like, yo, please just... I didn't want to do this. We didn't want it. I mean, of course we want to do it and we love doing it, but it's a calling, dude. Like, we all got to get better and we all got to be informed. This is, what... Chairman Fred Hampton said, guys got to get your reading on. Anyway, we appreciate y'all because you guys are doing it. Subscribe, like, comment for algorithms. Final thoughts and feelings today on this Thursday, Tanky.
Man, I can't wait to the rest of my life, man. It's peacetime. I'm about to go out and have fun, man. I'm about to make so much art. Peacetime.
Hopefully there's no police out there to bother us, right? When we step out there. There's not going to be no more militia, right?
Nah. Never.
Oh yeah.
And now that all of that is over everywhere, I have only one thing to say: get to him. Get to him. Get to him.
Donnie T, man, we come back and he got the Peace Prize. We're gonna have to do an emergency broadcast. Anyway, for Emoji Lil Tanky Summer, I'm Amin TMK. This is the Inner City Left broadcast. Peace.
System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' in the city left.